Good afternoon. It's McCollum on Business. I'm Stephen McCollum, and for the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to get you updated on what's happening around the business world here on this Tuesday edition. We had a big meeting at the White House yesterday between Donald Trump and the Australian Prime Minister. Some raw materials, some rare materials coming out of that. We got that story coming up for you. Plus the stock market, lots of companies are starting to report their earnings as we get into earnings season, which is affecting the market. Of course, government shutdown still continuing. That's not really affecting the market yet. It might be coming up on Friday. But let's get started with that Market Watch. It's a good day to be on the market for the most part, right? Well, the Dow Jones did hit a record here today in terms of that. 235 points up right now, 46,990 for the Dow Jones. Coca-Cola, 3M earnings were both huge today and driving that up. S&P 500, though, basically flat, as you can see. 1 point up as of right now, 1.60, 67.43 for that S&P 500 right now. Then you got the decline here. The Nasdaq's down 16 points at 22,973. And that small cap index, the Russell 2K, down 19 points to 2486. As of right now, then there's Bitcoin just hovering, in that low 110,000 range. It's up to 111,701 right now. So that is staying down at that level in that area here, at least the beginning part of this week. Something to keep an eye on coming up. If we're looking ahead right now, Netflix reports after the bell today. That'll be a big stock number. And then the CPI report, that Consumer Price Index, it's been delayed for September because of the government shutdown. Well, it's scheduled to come out coming up on Friday. Two things to keep in mind about this report. One, are the numbers going to be proper? Because the government shutdown's happening, working off of a limited staff there at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Are the numbers going to be good? If it's an abnormally high number or an abnormally bad number, well, is it going to be because of the government shutdown getting those reportings back? It's kind of what kind of weariness here on those numbers, and that could be a day where we see a sell-off coming here on the market with that CPI report coming out. Stocks we're paying attention to right now, well, first one we're going to look at is a company called Beyond Meat. We've talked about this company a lot. This is the company that I call it the fake meat out there, right? For the people that don't want to eat meat but want something that looks like it out there. 128% up here today, folks. 128.57% right now. And the interesting thing is it's just gone up and up and up, as you see on the graph on your screen. It started at 40% up and kept going and going. Yesterday, Monday, it had a 127% increase on that day. Now, it's all funny, right? Because we're talking 127% yesterday, 129% today, and it's still trading at $3.39. So small moves here. This was a penny stock at one time as well. Yesterday was the best one-day gain ever for the stock. And basically, this was a big stock that had big swings back in 2021. That was back when retail traders, meaning consumers like you and me, not the people that are the big conglomerates. Well, retail traders like meme stocks, for instance, like AMC, tried to send this stock way up. We think that's what's happening right now. Retail traders are getting behind this stock, buying large amounts of it to run it up a little bit and try to get it as high as possible before they start unloading it. That's what they think is happening here with the Beyond Meat. Basically, making it a meme stock like GameStop was, AMC was for a while there as well. But pay attention to Beyond Meat here. When does this run end is kind of the question. And then Warner Brothers Discovery is the next stock that we're taking a look at today as well. The Warner Brothers Discovery, HBO Max, for instance, CNN, they own them. Well, they are up today, 10.51% as of right now. They said that it was open to a sale. We know that Paramount, Skydance, that just merged on themselves, we know they made an offer, was rejected, and they said, come back with the higher number, would you? So we've known they're for sale from that number, but they officially announced they're open to a sale. The Warner Brothers Discovery Board said, quote, "We'll evaluate a broad range of strategic options," is how they phrased it in their statement. So they're And then part of that is, they want to pursue a planned separation of the company by mid 2026 is what they're looking at. One of the options, a sale, of course, of the whole company out there as well, also on the table, and then separate deals for Warner Brothers and then their Discovery Global side, which means, you know, two separate deals for both of those companies as opposed to just separating them out. So Warner Brothers Discovery, well, the investors like that, 10.86% up. Another interesting note, HBO Max, which Warner Brothers does own, they said they're raising prices for all of their tiers. Basic with ads is now going to cost $10.98, $10.99, excuse me. Standard cost is going to be $18.49, and then the premium, $22.98 for that new rate as well. The new rates take effect immediately if you're not a current customer of them, but current customers will see changes in pricing on November 20th after that billing date there. So heads up on that. Warner Brothers, HBO doing price increases like everybody is. Disney Plus, Hulu, etc. are all doing that right now. And then finally, right now, we're going to look at Cleveland Cliffs. We talked to them earlier this week. A mining company said they were, or a steel company, I should say, wanting to move into the rare earth mining category. We talked to you about that earlier this week. Well, they're down big today, 16.44%. So most of the gain that they've had yesterday, well, has been given back now. So they became, basically, they were downgraded to underweight. They were at equal weight there with Wells Fargo. Well, now they were downgraded to underweight. Wells Fargo did say that Cleveland Cliffs' 21% surge yesterday was an overreaction by investors to the miner saying that it would explore that rare earth metals mining. Well, whether it was an overreaction or not, it's down today and giving back most of those gains. Just about 1.7% in gains not given back yet here for Cleveland Cliff. So giveth and take it away, I guess you could say there for that stock. And when we come back later on and look at the market watch for the final time here on this Tuesday, Spotify, General Motors, Zions Bancorp are stocks that we are going to look at as well. Now, I mentioned here at the top of the show that 3M was kind of a big mover in Coca-Cola. No graphs on these. They're kind of driving the Dow up today. So basically, Coca-Cola's third quarter earnings and revenue beat expectations. That's why they are driving the Dow up today as well. Their adjusted earnings were 87 cents per share. Now for them, the expectation was 78 cents per share. Their revenue was $12.41 billion for Coca-Cola. Expectation was $12.9 billion. So beat both of their numbers, and then 3M as well. They were up about 5% here today. Well, their quarter results also beat the analyst expectations. $2.19 per share is what 3M earned. The expectation was $2.08 per share for 3M. Revenue was $6.32 billion. Revenue expectation was $6.25 billion. So I wanted to just give you those since those are kind of the big stocks driving that Dow up here today, and just kind of tell you where they're at. And the other big story coming out of the government side of things, no, not the shutdown. That's continuing here with still no end in sight. But President Trump and the Australian Prime Minister, well, they met Monday up there at the White House, and they signed the agreement that we kind of hinted on and told you about here at McCollum on Business. Is that agreement on rare earths and critical minerals. Both of these allies are looking to stabilize global supplies of those rare earth materials, all because of China's efforts to control the market, stop the exports that we've talked about here over the last week or so. So the two president and the prime minister, well, they met at the White House. It was their first summit, and Trump said the deal was negotiated over the past 4 or 5 months ahead of yesterday's announcement. So the Prime Minister of Australia said an $8.5 billion pipeline that Australia is ready to go and ship and import these items into the United States. Reuters did report afterwards, according to a copy of the agreement that they were provided by the Australian Prime Minister's office, is where they got this copy. Well, they said the two countries agreed to each invest $1 billion over the next 6 months into specifically mining and processing projects. It's not just mining, it's also getting the materials extracted from the dirt, etc., in the ground as well. So then they also set a minimum price floor for critical minerals between the two countries. As part of the agreement, Trump and the Prime Minister of Australia agreed to cut permitting for mines, processing facilities, and even related operations. They're cutting all the red tape on that. Well, because they're going to boost production of the rare earths and critical minerals that is needed right now, with China restricting those exports. So the deal calls for cooperation between the U.S. and Australia, and not just on mining and getting the material out of the ground. Well, it's also for geological resources, mineral recycling, and even those efforts to stop the sale of critical mineral assets on those national security grounds. Australia is open to selling shares of its planned strategic reserve of critical minerals to allies. Basically, so not just the U.S., Britain is another country that they did mention, and Reuters reported that last month. The move comes as everybody that deals with these rare earth minerals, well, they're looking to reduce the reliance on China for those rare earths and critical minerals. Well, I found this stat here while just doing some research for this story. The U.S. Geological Survey, the USGS, well, they reported back in January that China's mines produced 270,000 tons of the rare earth materials in 2024. China has 44 million tons of reserves of those minerals, and they just said, as I said, kind of a negotiation toy with the United States in terms of the trade negotiation. They just said they're going to restrict the exports of that 44 million tons of it. So, kind of fighting back here, going elsewhere, kind of like China did with exports to the U.S. Being at a standstill or 60% down. Well, they found other countries to take their junk out there, and so we've done the same here in the United States. The other thing around the Trump administration, well, if you have student loans and you kind of got caught up in this deal, the Trump administration has officially agreed to a court-supervised plan. And what that's going to do is it's going to speed up the debt cancellation under income-driven repayment programs for your student loans. So it's also going to protect you from unexpected tax bills that come next year. When debt gets written off, you have to still pay taxes on it. It counts as income, actually, at least in the IRS's eyes. The administration and the American Federation of Teachers, the AFT, well, they reached an agreement Friday. And so this is that lawsuit that the AFT had versus the Department of Education. So this settlement is resolving a long battle here, several months of legal tension, all because of the government's obligation to cancel student loan for borrowers who have made decades of payments under federal law. So this was specifically targeting people if you made 20 years of payments and your balance is higher than what you originally signed up for, those types of payments and deals. The AFT said in a statement that the deal, which is awaiting court approval, even though the two sides have come to it, they require the Department of Education to follow through on a debt forgiveness for eligible borrowers in 2025. But it also ensures they won't get that surprise tax bill next year because of bureaucratic delays that have obviously with the lawsuit and everything going into that. According to the filing, the administration must cancel student debt for all eligible borrowers enrolled in that income-driven repayment, income contingent repayment. You know, if you're involved in that pay-as-you-earn, the public service loan forgiveness, that's that PSLF. If you're in those programs is what they're focusing on. Borrowers who make payments after becoming eligible for cancellation, well, you'll get reimbursed for those. The Education Department must also process IDRs and the PSLF buyback applications, so including those from borrowers no longer required to prove financial hardship. Borrowers whose loans are canceled on or before December 31st of this year, well, they will not receive IRS forms treating the forgiven balances as taxable income. So, yeah, if you get a debt forgiven, that's not free money. You have to pay taxes on that, but not in this case if that happens for you. Well, the Trump administration must file 6 monthly progress reports within the court to show the pace of application processing and even the loan discharges. So they're going to be held accountable for it. So that AFT union, well, they said the deal also tackles what is called a looming tax bomb, as I said, and that's what they're also excited about. Because can you imagine you get a $50,000, $70,000 student loan deal forgiven? and all of a sudden you get that 70, it puts you up a tax bracket because that was wiped out. And that's obviously a big penalization there. So the update on the student loan lawsuits happening and going around. And, we talk a lot here about meat prices being higher and, the reason why head counts being down on American cattle, the screwworm down there in Mexico, not bringing cattle up here and meat up here at that point. And we told you yesterday, President Trump talked over the weekend about bringing beef up from Argentina. Well, shouldn't be a surprise. There's people against that. And that's the American cattle ranching industry. Yeah, they're blasting. They're not happy with President Trump and that proposal to purchase the beef from Argentina. And the whole idea behind bringing that up here from Argentina, well, it's helping the Argentina government that needs help right now. But it's also an effort to lower the beef prices up here in the States. So here's the quote from the union or the group that looks over American beef people. Well, the plan only creates chaos at a critical time of the year for American cattle producers while doing nothing to lower grocery store prices. That was a statement put out by the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. They put that statement out yesterday. So they're saying it won't affect beef prices at all and just less people buying American beef. Beef prices, if you've been to the grocery store, know that they've hit record highs this year. And that's according, not only you're seeing it at the store, but also, the Bureau of Labor Statistics is telling it as well. It's all part of that depleted herd counts throughout the United States. A steady demand from U.S. consumers. Like I said, the screwworm down in Mexico restricting that beef coming up. And so it's an incentive. Now, it's going to help the government down there as well because they're struggling with their economy and an election coming up. And so we'll see where it goes, but there's always naysayers to things that happen out there. And, so a lot of people are worried about beef prices. A lot of people are worried about this government shutdown. But we also found out that most U.S. adults, well, they're worried about health care becoming more expensive. This is all according to a new AP NORC poll. And they made discussions about next year's health coverage. They did this poll, I guess I should say, when you're all sitting down and looking at the decisions about next year's health coverage and the pricing and what they're cutting back on for higher pricing, right? There's a lot of question marks around future healthcare costs. Well, also because of the government shutdown. So this report was kind of timely. And about 6 in 10 Americans, well, they're extremely or very concerned about their health costs going up in the next year, according to the survey out there. A worry that extends across age groups, by the way. Not just older people. Younger people are feeling the pinch as well. It includes people with or without health insurance at the same time. Many Americans, well, they either have, they have other healthcare anxieties. Let me put it that way. They have other healthcare concerns out there besides just the price of healthcare and everything. The poll found that about 4 in 10 Americans are extremely or very concerned about not being able to pay for healthcare, but not just that specifically, medications that they need is their biggest concern. But even then, not even having access to healthcare when you need it, right? When you get super sick and you need it as well. So, and then you get down into that fear of not having or losing your health insurance and not be able to get more. Medicare beneficiaries, well, they're shopping for next year's coverage. We've told you that out there. Open enrollment periods for many other health plans, like in your company, open coming up here in November, end of October, beginning of November. Federal policies have left millions of people at the risk of skyrocketing health insurance premiums or just in general losing your health insurance coming up here for the next year. So the findings of this report show that many Americans are feeling vulnerable to spiking healthcare costs. Some do express their concerns about whether they'll have that coverage at all, especially as the government goes on, is what they're finding from that healthcare side of things. And so it's out there. Pressure's out there. We have data to show people are concerned about it there. So something to keep an eye on as we're getting closer here to the end of the year. And it's not the only struggle out there, healthcare and the thoughts on that. A lot of people are struggling with their car payments right now for a lot of reasons. And now we got a study from VantageScore and on how bad car loan situation is. Well, that VantageScore study, they found that auto loan delinquency rates, they've increased by more than 50%. But it's over a long period, over the past 15 years. But Obviously, 2020 and on, car prices have gotten really expensive. This is a big upward trend, and delinquency rates in other other loan categories, if I can speak here, sheesh, things like credit cards, personal loans, home equity loans, well, they've actually declined in terms of the delinquency rates at that point. So, what's different between the car loans and those other ones? Well, quite frankly, money to pay it back with the interest rates and a monthly loan payment, no less. So, a growing number of Americans have been falling behind on car payments for years. Auto loan delinquency rates, though, have picked up after that, after it kind of dipped there in the pandemic timeframe. The most recent data from the Federal Reserve, well, it shows auto loan delinquency rates. If you want to specifically put a definition to this, it's the portion of loan balances that are at least 30 days past due, is how they define them as delinquent. Well, they're at 3.8% in June of 2024. That's the highest level since June of 2010. So it's a small amount, but it is ticking up, is kind of what the story here is. The rise in the delinquency rates, well, it includes all household income groups. So it's not just rich, it's not just poor, it's not just middle class. Everybody's kind of running into it as well. Delinquency rates among prime borrowers, well, they have climbed faster than subprime borrowers on an absolute basis. Check that out. People with better interest rates are going delinquent more than subprime borrowers, which generally have higher interest rates out there. VantageScore found that the average loan amount, well, it's increased 57% over the last 15 years. Cars are getting more expensive. That's a bigger jump than any other loan category, including mortgages of all things, which we know mortgage rates are going through the roof. One of the main factors hurting car owners, well, it's that monthly payment that is growing faster and faster and faster. I had a car that I bought in 2019, and I had a $300 car payment. Bought another car in 2021. That was a $700 car payment. Okay. Data from the Federal Reserve shows that average monthly payments increased roughly $130 from January of 2020 to January of 23, and it moved up to $600. Well, if you look at the other side of it, the 3-year period from January 2017 to January 2020, average monthly car loan payments, they'd increase about $40. That's a big jump there, folks, in that time frame. Payments continue to escalate even to this day. 1 in 5 new car loans have monthly payments that exceed $1,000 a month. Yes, that's according to Edmunds out there. Behind the ballooning payments are the rising car prices, but more importantly, the interest rates as well. So both of those playing a big deal. The average cost of a new vehicle, well, it's now more than $50,000. Remember when you could buy cars for $30,000? Get away with it at that point? That's according to September data, by the way, from Cox Automotive. So it's not that far back there. It's a month ago. And it's the highest number it's ever been. The average auto loan, well, it came in September, was 7% in terms of the rate for new cars. Approximately 11% for used cars out there as well. That's also from September coming up there. So auto delinquencies are going up. People are having to buy cars, having to buy more expensive cars. They're having to finance them at higher interest rates, making the monthly payments higher. And it's hitting all categories here. And there's going to be a breaking point. The question's going to be, when does that breaking point hit coming up is kind of what we need to pay attention to. And then streaming, we're going to talk some streaming here coming up as well. We already told you Warner Brothers Discovery raising their prices on HBO Max. We told you that in the stocks to watch section there. And now, well, some good and bad here. If you're an F1 fan in terms of racing, don't forget Pit Stop also, right? The Look Back show from for this week, for looking back at Talladega last weekend. That show is up here at Robat TV and on the free YouTube page and on the free podcasting systems. It's there for you out there. Check it out. We do the Look Ahead show here coming up on Thursday, but I digress for a minute. Apple is teaming up with Formula One. They announced a 5-year media rights deal. They announced this over the weekend. It's going to bring every F1 race to Apple TV beginning in 2026. I do not like F1's trying to grow their audience, and they put it behind a paywall. Interesting move here for F1, I think, moving forward. Apple TV, now you don't have to have a separate subscription, which is good. I'll tell you about that in a minute. but Apple TV will provide coverage of all Formula One events, all the way from practice, qualifying, sprint sessions, obviously the races as well. So you're going to get all that coverage in the existing $12.99 per month subscription of Apple TV. That comes ad-free also, just so you know. That's that level. Certain F1 races and all practice sessions will also be available for free in the Apple TV app throughout the season. Obviously, to entice you to buy that package as well coming up. The interesting thing about this is, yes, they're behind a paywall, but you get it with the standard $12.99 subscription. It's different structure than what they did, and this is the problem I had with MLS. MLS hurt their audience here by teaming up with Apple TV recently, few years ago. We're talking Major League Soccer here. Apple TV has exclusive rights to every MLS game, just like they will with F1, but you have to have an additional cost through the MLS season pass there for Apple TV. So you have to pay your monthly charge to Apple TV and then buy the MLS season pass on top of it. F1, you won't have to do that, which I do. At least that's the positive out of this as well. Apple's paying about $140 million per year for the racing rights to F1, is what we are being told. Disney's ESPN, well, they're the incumbent media partner for the F1. They'd been paying about $85 million per year on average. And so getting a big increase here for F1 as well by moving over. F1 TV Premium, that's the league's own content. It provides popular, and it's very popular with racing fans and people that follow the league. It'll continue to be available in the U.S., but it will now require that Apple TV subscription to watch it. Once a customer subscribes to Apple TV, F1 TV Premium will be included in their Apple subscription. So that's nice. It won't be a standalone offering, which is if you're going behind a paywall, at least you're not having to charge extra, to move on. Like ESPN's doing right now with their app out there and, trying to get people to pay extra for it as opposed to just watching it on ESPN. So I do like that side. I don't like it behind the paywall, though. But it's the world that we live in, folks, as we continue to move on. And the other part of the world we live in, well, break time here, right? We got to pay the bills ourselves, advertise our shows here that we produce, that I produce with Kobe and Riley and Ethan. We produce these shows. We'll show you those commercials. Come on back, though. McCollum on Business. We'll get into the local stories out there. One more look at the market watch here on this Tuesday. Come back and join me, would you? And we're back here. McCollum on Business Tuesday edition. And as you just saw there, The Real Matrix. Well, the new episode comes out tomorrow, Wednesday at noon, right here at Robot TV. And it rolls out also on YouTube at noon tomorrow as well. Every Wednesday at noon, you'll get a new episode of The Real Matrix coming out. And, on the free YouTube page, of course, podcast as well for the free podcast systems. You can find it. Just search The Real Matrix, and it comes up for you out there. And of course, the main event, Bruce Cooper joins us. Of course, longtime Valley sportscaster with 12 News. Joins us on Tuesdays. A spirited show about the Cardinals and ASU. That is up on demand at Robat TV, free YouTube channel as well. And then on the free podcast systems, up right now as well. As soon as we get done here, well, we'll get this posted as well at Robat on the free YouTube page. And then the pit stop, as I said in the last segment, is up for the Look Back show from yesterday. Looking back at Talladega over the weekend, the Look Ahead show, looking into the racing this weekend here at Martinsville for the final championship for is set. That show will be out coming up Thursday here this week as well for the pit stop. Check that out. Of course, free YouTube page and here at Robat TV. And with all that being said, let's get right back into that Market Watch. So everything is just kind of where it was before, right? S&P 500 still flat. It's only 3 points up. Dow up with the Coca-Cola 3M earnings and some other earnings out there. 236 points up right now. We're waiting for Netflix to report. We're kind of waiting for that CPI data on Friday, see if people will believe it or not. Well, the Nasdaq's down 24 points right now. And then the small cap index, the Russell 2K, well, it's down 13 points here today for the small cap index. And then Bitcoin, well, it's up a little bit, 112,020 for Bitcoin here as the day goes on. It's 111,000 when we looked at it earlier out there. Stocks that we're paying attention to in this segment of the show, Spotify, the streaming company there, right? And they're based out of a European country, but they're up 1.71% right now. Morgan Stanley named it one of its top picks of stocks to have, and it reiterated its overweight rating on the stock. They say that Spotify is poised to accelerate growth into the next year. And then they say why? Well, it's because they've added value to its free and premium tiers. So that's why they think their revenue is going to continue to grow, and they'll get more growth next year, at least according to Morgan Stanley. 1.66% up right now for Spotify. And then you got General Motors up big today, 14.74%. They raised their full year guidance. Now, they also posted an earnings beat at the same time. GM earned an adjusted $2.80 per share for their third quarter. Well, the expectation amount was $2.31, a 49-cent beat here for GM. Revenue was $48.59 billion. So the consensus was $45.27 billion is what they were looking at from that side of things in terms of the estimates out there. So big beat here by General Motors. They do expect full-year adjusted earnings to come in between $9.75 to $10.50. So that's where they improved their guidance. The prior guidance they had was $8.25 to $10 at that point. So they did up that guidance quite substantially as well with their third quarter results. General Motors up 14.55% right now. And then we're going to look at that regional stock we've been paying attention to here this week. We're going to look at Zions Bancorp out there. Basically, this is good news. 1.12% up here today. They were over 2% earlier today when I looked at them. But their third quarter report, well, that third quarter report eases all the issues and concerns around that exposure of these regional banks, specifically Zions, who was caught up in that, to those bad loans with the automotive industry loans going underneath and filing for bankruptcy. Zions did earn $1.48 per share. But the estimate was $1.41 per share as well. Net interest income came in at $672 million for the period. So the third quarter report says Zions Bancorp is healthy, even though they were exposed to those bankruptcies on the subprime lending company that went bankrupt, and also the auto part distributor that went bankrupt for the automotive segment there, and caused a lot of consternation around those regional banks and the exposures on them out there. So Zions National Bank kind of easing that a little bit more as time has gone on. So everybody sold off on that first day, kind of panicking about it. Now everything's fine. Everything's fine. Hey, Banner Health here in the Valley, they're a Phoenix-based company, by the way. Well, they're confident that proposed $400 million hospital, that it will be built. But they do have some fresh opposition coming up here. The Scottsdale Airport Advisory Commission, well, they last month voted 5-1 against the proposed medical campus. So they want to build this big campus up there in the southwest corner of Hayden Road and the Loop 101. That's up there in North Scottsdale. Now, the reason why the airport authority Commission voted against it 5-1. Well, they say it's too close to the Scottsdale Airport runway. If you know anything about that airport, they fly right over that area coming into land. The Airport Commission's concern is emergency helicopter flights associated with the hospital, and they're saying that they could dangerously intersect with existing airport traffic. So it's the helicopters specifically here, not the size of the buildings. So their airport authority is saying it creates a risk to public and aviation safety at the same time. So the other side of it, other opposed. Now that's the newest one to oppose it. For the past 2 years, though, the Scottsdale Firefighters Associations also opposed this hospital being built up there. Their president recently argued that the community's healthcare needs are actually already being met, and we don't need another big hospital in that area. And then they say that the project would strain medical personnel and dilute the quality of services in that Scottsdale area, is what they're saying. So two oppositions, one newer than the other one, but two powerful groups also kind of fighting against it. So Banner Health already had previously tweaked the site plan last year. What they did was they moved the hospital and the helipad even farther from the Scottsdale airport because they had discussions with neighboring residents and some other people out there that regulate this stuff. But even though they made all those changes, the commission still voted against the project. Now, the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, they have the only authority to regulate airspace and flight safety. The airport does not have a say in it. Ideally, I'm sure the airport and the FAA do talk a little bit. But the FAA had previously reviewed the Banner Hospital project, and they determined its buildings posed no hazard to air navigation at that time. They just still adjusted it. They still moved the buildings back. They still moved the helipads to another area, even though the FAA said they didn't have to. So now you got a big fight on your hands here with this hospital. Tell me, right, with Axon and everything, Scottsdale likes to fight with its businesses up in that area. So what's next for that Banner Hospital? Well, Scottsdale Planning Board is where the plans go to. They need approval at that level before they can move on. Public comments are going to be there. We'll have to see how spiritful the public commenting section is going to be for this hospital being built up there. And Scottsdale, tell me if you've seen this before. Scottsdale fighting with the big companies that want to just do business in their areas. So we'll see where this one goes. I'll Axon as well, and Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Co. We talked about them yesterday with that Blackwell chip being first one produced up there with NVIDIA. Big news there. Well, now the CEO there of TSMC, they said that it's moving up its 2-nanometer production plans in Arizona, all due to the continued strong AI demand from American customers. The CEO also mentioned that the company is close to acquiring another massive property that's up there close to the latest fab, excuse me, in that area up there north of Phoenix. So basically, that's telling you that they're planning on further expansion outside of its current $165 billion commitment that they have up there. Yeah, you're not buying the land if you're not going to build on it. TSMC has previously slowed its global plans, well, because demand wasn't there on the global side of things, but it actually accelerated the development here in Arizona fabs because of that big demand here in U.S.-based clients. Construction of its N2 fabs at the site, well, it just started last April of the year. This is the next fab besides the one that's already open. It's already accelerated work on that N2 site. TSMC initially expected chip production to begin by 2030, but now with this announcement, they're kind of saying and hinting that it's going to bring it up a little bit quicker. So it could be a year or two faster for the new fab to be online and chips happening there as well. They haven't said the timeline, but that reporting there of buying more land to expand quicker, and they've accelerated the production, tells you they're trying to get it done before 2030. Now, how fast that speed up is, we'll have to keep an eye on that coming up here. But look, absolute growth here in the AI department here in the United States. And two things on this story. One, if you want to bid and be an electric charging station, well, Arizona Department of Transportation is seeking bids. They want to construct 34 electric vehicle charging stations along state highways. They did this last year or the year before, if I remember correctly. Specific deals there to build these charging stations and make it more accessible for people to get around with their electric cars. So private entities will manage the stations, but ADOT will be behind the regulation on setup, demands that how they're kept, etc. Will be ADOT controlled. ADOT said such stations will be placed no more than 50 miles apart from each other. And they'll also be within 1 mile of a highway. Isn't that the most annoying thing on the planet? You need gas and you get off for a gas station. You got to drive like 7 miles off the freeway to find it. Make it closer, right? The stations will be placed next to amenities for people wanting to eat, use the restrooms, etc. is what you need to do at that point. So those bids are coming out there. So the bids aren't due till January, so it's a little bit before they get built. But electric charging stations are growing here in Arizona off of the highways. Just wanted to make you ideas on that. And, if you're an Aldi's fan, I guess this means fresher food coming to you quicker. Because Aldi's had plans for a long time about that regional office and distribution center out there in Goodyear in the West Valley. Well, those plans are finally moving ahead. Aldi has long had those expansion plans in mind and have proposed a regional office and distribution center in Goodyear nearly 8 years ago. The project went dormant, and then last year they decided to reactivate it there. Aldi submitted a site plan with the city of Goodyear last year. The city approved that site plan for the facility in late September, and then the complex will be located along the Loop 303 corridor in the southwest corner of Indian School Road and North Cotton Lane, if you know that area. The facility will include about 549,000 square feet of warehouse space, a two-story office portion. Well, that'll amount to about 30,000 square feet. So Aldi's next steps, kind of like the other one, you have to go through these phases. Well, they have to submit building and civil engineering plans for review with the city. The architect for the project is listed as Butler Design Group, but that Aldi plans 8 years in the making steps and moving forward out there for that Goodyear area. And follow up here on the universities that were kind of told by President Trump and President Trump's administration, hey, we'll help you out with funding if you do what we say. Well, now it's official. The University of Arizona, they're the 7th U.S. university to reject that Trump administration proposal. This would grant schools funding priority, but they have to agree to support the administration's conservative agenda in return. The decision follows the administration's push for 9 universities to sign that compact for academic excellence in higher education. We told you about this in September. So this agreement, it seeks to make sweeping changes to campus culture, hiring and admission practices at universities, even affect foreign student enrollment also. Demands from the Trump administration's 10-point compact did include reforms to basically race or ethnicity changes and how they're used in administration and hiring practices. Then they wanted also the universities to and their commitment to strict definitions of gender and things like that effect is what they wanted these universities to do. Well, in a letter to the Department of Education sent yesterday, the University of Arizona president said that principles like academic freedom, merit-based research finding, and institutional independence are fundamental and must be preserved, is in that letter to the Trump administration. They went on to say that, quote, we seek no special treatment and believe in our ability to compete with federally funded research strictly on merit. So they're rejecting it and telling them why here. But also with that rejection, the university attached a statement of principles. That statement of principles included its commitment to Title VII of the Civil Rights Act and other federal and state anti-discrimination laws. The move comes after 6 other universities, because there was 8 universities or 9 universities originally given this letter. 6 of them, Brown, Dartmouth, MIT, University of Pennsylvania, USC over there in Southern California, and the University of Virginia, they've officially rejected the proposal as well. Vanderbilt University and the University of Texas at Austin, they have not yet declined the proposal out there, but they're still talking to the administration. According to Vanderbilt, Texas did not respond to anybody. But here's the other side of it. They've sent this offer to other schools out there, even though everybody's rejecting it, except for the 2 that haven't done anything with it yet. By the way, you had to have your response back by yesterday in there. But that means they're talking to it, right? But they extended this invitation to other universities. Washington University in St. Louis, the University of Kansas, and then Arizona State University also was given an offer to comply with this and get nicer funding options here from the federal government. And we got the new universities there from the Wall Street Journal a couple weeks ago. And speaking of Arizona State University, they have that decision that they have to make. But one thing we do know they've made a decision on, well, they're embarking on that multi-year, multi-phase renovation of the bank, Desert Financial Arena. Well, that's where the Sun Devils, men and women's basketball, their volleyball teams, gymnastics, and I believe wrestling also is done there as well. So there's an estimated cost of this remodel of about $100 million. The project should be completed, or estimated completion date, December of 2029. It requires approval by the Arizona Board of Regents, but I have a feeling if they're proposing it, it's going to be approved by them. So it's going to have new things in there, new loge boxes, club-level seating and premier floor seats. A new court will be put in, new restrooms and the renovation of existing restrooms, new and upgraded concession stand offerings, and then a new video board within that arena. So also, it's not just for the fans either. There's going to be, improvements in locker rooms and upgrades to the air conditioning system as well. And then they're doing things to ensure ADA compliance. New elevators, accessible stairs. They're going to add handrails, folks. If you've ever been in there walking down those stairs sometimes without handrails, even for the healthy of us, can be a little daring if you trip and fall at all going down there as well. So why 2029 for it to be completed? Well, it's going to be done kind of at weird times, right? Because sports are played in there. So the majority of the work will take place between the months of April and October. So that way the teams can use the arena, not have to play their games elsewhere, and they can work on the stadium. So I looked this up here as well. Growth and improvement is big at ASU. They're constantly growing. They're constantly trying to improve. As of April of this year, 2025, ASU had $1 billion in construction projects underway throughout the valley. So that doesn't just include buildings for students. That includes, obviously, the football stadium had some improvements over the last couple years. And now DFA, they're doing the practice bubble for football, but also university buildings in terms of classrooms and everything being improved. So lots of money being pumped into ASU for improvements and growth right now. And it's good to see. It means, I guess, there's some success happening around Arizona State University. And folks, I appreciate you joining me here on this Tuesday edition. I'll be back tomorrow, Wednesday at 11 o'clock. Please make sure you come and join me. Of course, main event from 8 to 10 a.m. tomorrow as well. Coach Mike Sheehan joins us from Scottsdale Christian Academy for his Wednesday coaches show. Their quote-unquote regular season's over. They have one more regular season game, but it will have playoff implications. We'll talk to him about that coming up. Thursday, we have Uncle Lou. Well, Thursday, actually, we don't have Uncle Lou. Uncle Lou's coming in on Friday this week. Come and join us on all these programs, folks. Check us out on demand on YouTube, if you will, also. We'll see you then, folks. Have a great Tuesday night.